So I wanted to do a live video tonight because obviously it's warmer during Christmas week, and I thought a number of people might be interested in this. Had a little bit of time tonight, so I thought, you know what, let me come over into Studio C and let's talk about what happened in winter. So number one, I'm Chief Meteorologist Mark Weinberg. For every one of you joining me here on my Facebook page, I appreciate you guys joining in. Right now, let's see, we have about 200 people here in on the feed. If each of you, let's say, has 100 people that follow you, when you share the video, that would mean 100 times you. So the 200 now becomes 20,000. And that would mean that people around our area that might be interested in when the colder is going to return will get an opportunity to jump in on this video. So that's the thing I always say. Number one is please share the video. If you guys do appreciate the lives, you can always throw some thumbs up on the bottom of the screen, and I appreciate that. You can also watch this tonight. I've got us on our YouTube page. So if that's a better way for you to watch, some like YouTube because they can put it on their TV and watch it full screen. And then we're also streaming tonight on X. So if you're on X, formerly known as Twitter, you can also jump in and watch in that way. So what we're going to do here I thought it'd be a fun video. I think people feel somewhat, maybe a little bit let down. It's not going to be a white Christmas. The probability is, let's just say 0.0. There is no chance that we get snow in our area on Christmas Day. Now, is that the norm? I mean, the reality here is yeah, it kind of is. I mean, traditionally in this area, we get a white Christmas statistically 5 to 10% of the time. So if you're to go through 100 years, you get a white Christmas 5 to 10 times. It's not great odds. But now let me just remind you of what this month started with. Right now, Louisville's running 6.2 degrees below normal, and our average temperature for the month of December is 34.4. We've got 10.6 inches of snow that's fallen. That's 3 inches less than what we normally see in an entire month or an entire winter. So yes, I do understand some of the wanting the white Christmas, but we can't get too greedy. I mean, we've had a very snowy month in our area. And this now means what's, I think, quite interesting in the same calendar year, January 2025 had 10 inches of snow. December of 2025 had 10.6 inches of snow. So you have 2 months in the same calendar year with over 10 inches of snow. And if you've lived here for any period of time, you know that that is not the norm of how things work within this area. So we've done quite well. Beyond that, can we get back to a colder pattern? Are there any signals within that colder pattern to generate some snow? So let's jump into this discussion here. Some of you may also be noticing I'm wearing my glasses and I do not have contacts in. I am not sure what happened on Friday. To be clear, there's no pollen, but I posted about it and everybody said the same thing, that on Friday, for whatever reason, their eyes started to feel like sandpaper. And my eyes got wrecked this weekend. I don't know exactly what is in the air. I know it's not pollen, but I know what's affecting me for whatever reason has affected a lot of people. And my eyes are actually starting to heal up a little bit now, so I may be able to get the contacts back tomorrow. But until then, this is the Mark Weinberg version with the glasses on. So we can see across our area when we look at the radar here, there's not much. Which brings up an interesting point. You know, if you look at radar, I'm going to put it in motion. That's basically no rain. So you walk outside today, you see the wet pavement. You go to the gas station, you grab the pump, and that's wet. You look at your driveway, it's wet. Some people have noted that their garage floor is actually wet. I mean, how does it rain inside a garage? It doesn't. And it basically didn't really rain today. So what is that? I'm going to give you an example here. Let's just say I throw some ice cubes in this water, okay? I'm going to put it outside. It's summertime. We're going to leave that outside in the summertime. What's going to happen? Like, Mark, I mean, on the outside of this, it's going to be all covered with water. What do we call that? We say that it's sweat. It's sweat that's on the outside of the cold water. So what does this have to do with anything? So the pavement this month is running 6 degrees below normal. The pavement is really cold. In fact, it's actually 51 degrees right now, which is going to bring you back to the interesting point on this one. You can see that it didn't rain very much around our area. I'm going to show you now Louisville. So we know that the pavement's about 51 degrees in Louisville, and we have a dew point near 60. Okay. The pavement is this cold cup of water. And the high dew points would be kind of like what happens if you put this outside in summer. So what happens is the pavement's sweating. You're actually seeing dew form right on the pavement as it would on a cup of water out on a warm summer day, a soda can out on a warm summer day, or anything like that. And I thought that was an interesting one because a lot of people saw the wet pavement today and just assumed that it snowed or it rained rather, when in fact it really didn't. That is called pavement sweat. So I thought that was an interesting one, and I posted about it earlier, and it seemed like a lot of people enjoyed that. So let's look at the weather pattern, and I want to note a couple of things here. Number one, that low in California. Don't sleep on this one. If you've got any friends or family in Southern Cal, you can share the video and invite them in, but this is going to be a big deal. The problem here is that low is connecting to moisture, and it is not going to be moving a lot here in the coming days. And unfortunately, that means it's going to target Southern Cal. You're talking about elite potential flooding in Southern California, including near LA, into the mountains, Calabasas. When you go into the Sierras, you're going to be talking about some snow that may catch 70, 75 inches. Rain amounts in the terrain of California that may get into the 10 to 12 inch range. Burn scars that will cause mud flows, debris flows, flash flooding, and this will pose a threat to life and property. This is a very significant event that's going to be occurring in California. But closer to home, this high pressure is a very big deal. And what you can see is what it's doing is pushing the jet stream up and over our area. And the reason that that's important is when you push the jet stream up and over the top, it creates ridging and warmer. So as we move that jet stream north, we're warmer. What happened when we were really cold? Well, we had a massive dip in the jet stream. And so I want you to process that for one moment because I'm going to come back to this. Jet stream goes up and over the top. We warm. Dip in the jet stream in our area is going to be colder. And we'll come back to why that really matters because you're going to see in the data, it shows some changes here. So as we look around the area, I mentioned this already, but Louisville, you're sitting at 62 degrees. You've got a dew point near 60. That's why you've got the pavement sweating outside. Elizabethtown right now, you can see the road looks wet. It's 62 with a dew point of 59. It isn't raining in E-Town. Corydon, uh-oh. That looks like a little fog starting to form. Why? Because the dew point and air temperature are close. Patchy dense fog could develop tonight. There are better chances before midnight because I think our winds will shift to the north after. But be aware, some fog could form, and you can see a little bit of that light fog in Seymour. You're at 58 with a west wind at 6. So let's look for this cold air. I mean, if cold's coming back into the area, we should see it. Well, I mean, it's 42 in Chicago. That's chilly, right? Well, not. I mean, that's not cold for this time of the year. So where's the cold? Well, this is the reason why the weak front that comes through tonight is not going to generate much colder. But that said, it will bring some 40s back into our area. So from here, let's take the exercise out further. Where is the cold air? 25 below in Thompson, Canada, 6 below in Winnipeg, Edmonton, 10 below zero, 44 below zero in Yellowknife, and the wind chill right now in Fort Good Hope is 54 below zero. Parts of Alaska have been wildly cold. Fairbanks may be able to squeeze in the next 7 days, 45 below zero. Air temperature. Earlier this week in the Yukon territories of Canada, I've actually visited this area, there was a temperature measured of minus 55 Celsius. That is way down there. that minus 55 Celsius was the coldest temperature measured in Canada this century. So there is extreme cold out there. It's just not in our area. But this brings up some interesting points that we're going to need to discuss. We are not lacking cold air in the Northern Hemisphere this year. In fact, arguably, you're talking about it in abundance. And so these cold spurts then become interesting because when they occur, how frequently can really, really bring down some exceptionally cold air. So what I want to show you here is a jet stream now. What we're going to do is come back to this concept that the jet stream is pushing up and over our area. You see how it comes through Iowa and kind of pushes down towards the northeast? That's why the northeast is cold, because the dip in the jet stream is in the northeastern part of the U.S. I put on here, just for your enjoyment, I put on here the actual jet stream wind speeds, because some people are kind of curious. Now remember, I mean, you're talking about, 10 miles above the ground, so this is not something we see at the ground. But you can see that as we move towards Christmas, that jet stream is going up and over the top. Now, this is something that's really, really important, because when the jet ridges over our area, it's warm, at least for the season. And so this means that Christmas is going to be warmer than normal. You can very clearly see that the northeast is where the dip is. So until that jet stream changes, the weather pattern here will not shift. It's not a maybe, it's not a well, no. It is science. You must get the jet stream to shift. So that's Christmas Day. Now we're going to move towards Sunday. Well, that sure is interesting. Now we're starting to see what looks like the jet stream diving a little bit further south. In fact, I mean, you can see that the jet is 160 mile an hour over Chicago, heading towards the east-northeast. But what's most important is it's dipping southward. So if we then follow the dots, if the jet stream's dipping as we move towards Sunday, that should be introducing cold, right? And you can see now by Monday morning, now we have a legitimate dip over our area. And look at the jet stream. So, if you're flying, let's say, home from Christmas on Monday morning and you're heading towards, let's say, New York City or Bangor, Maine, you will have on your flight 180 mile an hour wind behind you, which would obviously affect the ground speeds. So the plane could conceivably fly 180 miles an hour faster, because there'll be a tailwind at 180 miles an hour. Cool stuff. But what you can see is this changes things. So by Monday, we very distinctly have a dip in the jet stream now covering the eastern part of the U.S. And then some of the data, and this is the European computer model, shows a reinforcing shot of cool air coming through Wednesday into Thursday, which would be New Year's Eve into New Year's Day. And this is something that's not showing up in every piece of data. That said, one of the more reliable computer models, being the Euro, does indeed show it. So I think it's worth noting that I feel very, very confident on what's going to transpire this weekend. But do we get a reinforcing shot of cold on New Year's Eve into New Year's Day? That's something that we're going to be looking at. So from here, I want to show you data. Always what we try to do in these lives is I always try to follow a theme. The theme being is, let's go through meteorology. What does meteorology dictate should happen? We then predictively try to determine what we believe is most likely in the scenario, and then apply that scenario to the weather model data. If the weather model data does not match what we believe scientifically should happen, we can take that weather model data and discard it into the trash. So we have now a conceptual model on what we believe should occur. So from here, now we move into the data. So this data here, and let me make it a little bit larger just so you can see it in full. So you can see on the left is GFS. What is that? That's the Global Forecast System. This is the American computer model in the medium range. True story about the Global Forecast System. This was actually not a terrible model, but performance-wise, it has been exceeded always by the European. We enacted the CV3 variant of this model a couple of years ago, which caused it to be a far inferior model to the European. That said, I don't know when we're going to introduce a new variant, but the CV3 unfortunately has been an epic fail for the GFS model. But it's an American model. In transparency, I thought let's show both. And on the right is the European. You can see cities like Seymour and Paoli and Madison, Louisville, Tell City, E-Town. I've got you on there in Campbellsville and Frankfurt, and you can pick out your town that's close. Next, top right part of your screen is going to give you the time so that you can always get that time reference point. I think that's important. That is 6 p.m. on Saturday, and Saturday is actually pretty nice temperature-wise. If we can stay rain-free on Saturday, I may actually make a go at Red River Gorge. I've never had a chance to hike in the winter in Red River Gorge, and if it's going to be on the warmer side, I may actually do it. So Sunday morning is weird. The temperature doesn't fall. Why? Because it's going to be windy. The other thing that's interesting about this is the GFS and the Euro are showing literally the exact same thing on Sunday morning, which should pique your interest because it should say to you that when there's consistency, it makes sense. Now you're saying, Mark, you just told me that conceptually we should start to see a change on Sunday. I don't see. Oh, there's 5 p.m. on Sunday. Wow. I mean, it's not super cold, but that's pretty obviously a cold front, right? I mean, the GFS is showing a wind chill of 40 in Seymour. The Euro shows 42. The Euro and the GFS are showing nearly the same thing for Paoli. Maybe a little bit of a difference in Louisville, but obviously that's just timing because it's the exact same in our Northwest. And then in our Southeast counties like Campbellsville, Columbia, Munfordville, Greensburg, you've got 54 in the GFS and 61 in the Euro. But again, what should pique your interest is these models are showing the exact same thing. And look at what pours in by Monday morning. I mean, that's quite the difference. Let's say you go outside Saturday evening. Let's walk through this. You go outside Saturday evening, you've got plans on Sunday and you don't get a chance to go outside. So Saturday, last time you go outside, it's nearly 70. You don't get a chance to go outside. You assume when you go out on Monday morning, it's going to be similar to what we saw on Saturday evening. And then you walk outside to this. The GFS and Euro are incredibly consistent in showing a wind chill of 9 in Seymour. The Euro has 8. Paoli GFS has 10. Euro has 8. Madison GFS has 10. Euro has 7. Louisville GFS has 13. The Euro feels like 11. E-Town, it feels like 13 on the GFS, 10 on the Euro. And Campbellsville, it feels like 13 on the GFS and 12 on the Euro. And so there's no inconsistency here. And Monday afternoon, you got the same thing on both of these models. So this is not all like, I think this could, this might. No, this is going to happen. You guys know me. I don't post long-range data. I won't even do it as a gag. On my Facebook page. If I post it, you know I believe it. And I posted this yesterday, and it was interesting. Somebody showed me the CPC 6 to 10 day outlook in 8 to 14, and they said, Mark, these are both warmer than normal. How can these temperatures be real if CPC is showing warmer than normal on both? I'll come back to this, but what I said to that individual is find a meteorologist you trust and stick with them. And I said that. And I say it to you guys all the time because you're going to be bombarded with different pieces of data all the time. That is the current world we live in. And the social media feeds, unfortunately, give credit and fuel these viral posts of people showing snow 2 weeks out. I see somebody now posting snow totals 45 days into the future. We struggle to forecast snow in this area 5-6 days into the future. 45 days into the future is almost comical. And it's just because it goes viral. And if you're trying to make money off this and you don't care about the people it affects, you're going to go for the viral post, right? I mean, you're going to show the data that shows 20 inches of snow because you know people are going to share it. You're going to be that guy on YouTube with the big letters that say, this has never happened before. I've never seen this. This is bad. That's what you're going to do. If you're trying to give accurate information, you've got to vet. You've got to vet the info. And in everything, look, if you choose not to or to watch me, I hope it's because you trust me. I could never sell my soul to the devil and put stuff out there only because I know it's going to go viral. In the end of all of this, I just want to build trust. When I started in this business, I started in 1999, so next year will be my 27th year as a TV meteorologist, and I graduated in 96, so this is my 30th year in 2026 as a professional meteorologist. When I started in this business, my only goal was one thing. And I remember growing up as a kid saying the same joke that everybody said: I want to be a weatherman because I only have to be right 50% of the time. When I decided to become a meteorologist, I decided that when I leave this industry, I want people to say, you know, I don't know if I want to be a meteorologist because now I've got to get it right 95% of the time. And I do feel that we've gotten to the point in accuracy that we're probably 95% accurate. Now, look, I know people are going to argue with me on that, and that's okay. But that's where I feel we are. So you can see Monday, I mean, look, both the GFS and the Euro are showing really cold temperatures. By Tuesday morning, the Euro's moderated a little bit. The GFS is colder. But here's the thing. I mean, let's just use Louisville as an example. You know, if the wind chill's 6 or 14, does it matter? I mean, that's really cold. And in the afternoon, you see wind chills are now in the 20 to 25 degree range. So what we now have been able to do here, and let's go back before we end the graphics here, but we've been able to then predictively determine what computer models should show if they would be accurate. We've determined that a dip in the jet stream is occurring later on this week. We've determined that it happens and draws a storm in that pulls significant cold down from Canada. We were able to develop a conceptual model in the timeline and what should happen. And then from there, we were able to apply that to the weather model. The numerical computer models, the GFS and the Euro, predict what they should show, and they showed exactly what should happen, which lended credibility to their forecast, which is getting very cold Sunday night, Monday, and Tuesday. So from here, we now want to talk about how long this can last. So I come back to the Climate Prediction Center forecast that somebody showed me yesterday that showed notably warmer for our area. In the 6 to 10 day outlook, I can tell you they've corrected the mistake. And now they're showing probabilities of colder than normal. And it will be colder than normal. It's not a maybe, it will be. And this is the 6 to 10. The 8 to 14, they're showing warmer than normal. Now, I would argue don't do that. And here would be my argument on this, is that the data shows in the early period of the 8 to 14, which is in the middle of next week, that there could be a cold spell coming somewhere in the middle and later part of next week. Now, you're like, well, that doesn't take us out to the full 14. You are right. And virtually all of the high-res data is showing after late next week, we will go back into a warmer than normal pattern. But here's the interesting thing about all of this. We have a very, very active weather pattern that has shown no middle grounds. It's showing you're way above normal or you're way below normal. And this matches up to what we're seeing in the North American continent, where we have very cold in Canada that when it's unleashed, it is going to come down with force. We have seen that in the early part of this month. If we can get into a blocking pattern that persistently leads to a dip, we will stay cold for a while. But this is not really a pattern that shows near normal. And we kind of talked about this when we showed you our seasonal outlook, that extremes were what was showing up in the data. And we're seeing that. December has been a month of extremes where we've been extremely cold or extremely warm for the time of season. I don't see that changing in January. Now, I know people are going to ask about the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Does that carry snow? There's so much warm in front of that system. You would have to get what we refer to as a phase, meaning a low coming behind it to tag along to produce snow. As it stands right now, that's not showing up in any piece of data whatsoever. How about a clipper style system? Is that out of the realm of possibility? It's not. But in transparency, none of the data shows that right now. We are sitting on 10.5 inches of snow on the season. All we need is 3 more in the next 2 months to get our average snow. Do I think that will happen? Yeah, I mean, 3 inches of snow in January, February, in a highly active weather pattern, it doesn't seem like a stretch. So that's kind of where we are. That's where we're gonna move here from the warmer to the colder. And I know that you guys kind of come to enjoy the Facebook Lives. I know some come in here just for the info. some come in here to ask questions. So first off, let me look down. If you guys enjoy my Facebook Lives, I've got my phone right in front of me. Throw me some thumbs up and some hearts across the screen. I want to see if you guys enjoy these Facebook Lives, and flood the feed with some hearts and some thumbs up if you enjoy the lives. Second, remember, when you share the video, people can come in afterwards and still watch the video in its entirety. And I think that a lot of people will be interested, and thank you. I see them flying. A lot of people will be interested after the fact. As we always do with my Facebook Lives, I want to open it up for questions, and you can see right here is where you ask the questions, and I'll answer as many as I can. You can also see the timeline shows up about 6 of these. So you can see we've got about 6. If I miss your question, don't feel bad asking twice. I can answer it if I miss it. Somebody said the sound is a little bit too low, and that is from Rick on YouTube. Can anybody on Facebook let me know? I just want to make sure. Is the sound too low on Facebook? If it is, you can comment. If it's just right, let me know. That way we can at least isolate if this is something on our end, or maybe if it's part of our YouTube. But if you could comment, let me know how it sounds here, if the sound is okay. That way I'll know. And I want to open it up to questions here. Sounds good on Facebook. So we'll look into that, Rick. Rick mentioned on YouTube was a little low. We'll look into it and see what's going on there. Questions here. Let's see. Somebody said, thanks for keeping us updated. I've learned a lot about weather from you. That's from Pam, and I appreciate that. You know, truthfully, you may not know this about me, but so I grew up in the Northeast. I always knew that I was interested in weather, but I didn't think it would be, I thought it was a weird career choice. I didn't think anybody is a meteorologist. It's an odd thing to do. So I went to college, first year of college. I went to a small 4-year school. I didn't go right into meteorology. And I thought, you know what, let me try some of the prerequisites and see how good I am in math and science. Physics really is a big push in my in meteorology. So I wanted to see if I could do well in that. And I did. And so I transferred and started my journey in meteorology. Got my degree in '98. And what I was going to plan to do at the time is get my PhD and teach. So my dream up to that point was to get into the OU School of Meteorology graduate school. If you were to ask me if there was one thing I was focused on in those years, it was get into OU graduate school. I got in 1996. I was working on my bachelor's, got into OU grad school, and I went to grad school from 1998 to about middle 1999. A huge tornado affected Oklahoma City while I was storm chasing, doing research at the time, and it obliterated more. It obliterated it. I watched it happen as a storm chaser, and it kind of changed me. I felt at the time that I wanted to get my PhD and teach. And then I felt like I watched this tornado go, and it killed 43 people. And I was like, is this what I want to do with my life? Or do I want to be doing something where I could be more active in the warning side? And so it launched me into the TV side. The honest thing is, in 1999, when I started in the television business, I never realized that I could be a TV meteorologist and continue to be a teacher. I didn't know it was going to work out that way. I ended up getting the best of both worlds, because on TV, I can be a part of the warning process. And in particular now with these lives, I can, and social, I can really still teach the science I love. So I never would have imagined it worked out that way. But, you know, the plan was different for me, and I got to do the best of both worlds. So I appreciate that people do enjoy that I like to teach a little bit about meteorology, because I really do. And you know what? Maybe someday I will teach a class. I don't know. Right now, my job with work keeps me really busy. The streaming is something I really enjoy. You know, and it's been really, really fun. I keep busy with astrophotography. And by the way, anybody in here curious? Let me see. I'm going to look for comments. Anybody curious why I haven't posted an image from my telescope in a while? So I've been working on a project here for about the last 6 months. I have not released what I'm doing, and I won't tell you yet. But I've done some things that are different. and I'm trying to do something a little bit different in how I do things, how I capture, and how I display. And it took a significant amount of preparation to do the thing that I did. But I'm hoping within the next 10 days to 2 weeks, I'll be able to release some more info on what I'm doing, where I'm doing it, and show you guys more. The goal out of this is that I want to be able to get you more pictures, higher quality pictures, and I want to knock your socks off. So, little tease there on some things I'm working on. Somebody said, please don't retire. No, no. I mean, I have no plans. I say this a lot, but as long as my employer will allow me to continue to do this, this is where I want to be. Somebody asked me recently, they said, if you won the $1.6 billion, you would retire, right? And I was like, no. And I think it surprised a lot of people because I work long hours and I work very deep into the night sometimes. It's physically, emotionally tiring and exhausting at times. And I think that the person that asked me thought I would say, yeah, I would leave tomorrow. But, I've worked in this area for 21 years to be in the place that I am today, where I have the opportunity to have a significant impact on your lives. We've ascended to being the #1 weather outlet in this area, and we have hundreds of thousands of viewers on our social media pages, and I worked a lifetime for this. So if I won the 1.6, you would still see me getting up, coming in, staying late, and being there for you. And would I probably work as late in life? If I won the 1.6, probably not. But I've spent a lifetime trying to earn your trust, and I wouldn't be ready to walk away. So, by the way, a lot of people are saying this, and I want to mention this back to you. I'm on air tomorrow, and I'll be on air, or tomorrow I'll be on air, and then I'll be off for a number of days. Just spending some time relaxing with family, getting some of my last vacation in the year off. But I wanted to say you eye to eye, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I hope you guys have a blessed time. I hope you guys get to spend some amazing time with family. I know it won't be a white Christmas, but maybe Santa will deliver your kids a bike, or maybe one of those motorized cars, or maybe a remote control car that they can play with outside. And maybe this year they don't get to use the sled, but when you look for the cup to be half full, it's easy to find. So take advantage of the warmer Christmas to maybe do some things you wouldn't normally do. So again, I just wanted to mention that. Back to questions here. Somebody is asking, did I grow up in Louisville? I did not. My first television station was Lawton, Oklahoma. That is in southwest Oklahoma. I worked there from 1999 to 2001. In 2001, I took a job in Little Rock, Arkansas at KTHV. I worked there from 2001 to 2004. And in 2004, what was a small WDRB decided that they wanted to bring me in to kind of try to change what we did in weather and see if WDRB could actually win weather. And, we've grown into a 5-person team. Traffic's part of the umbrella of what we do here. And, that's kind of how my career has gone. And I'm very, 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 very fortunate. I say this a lot, but I am so fortunate. I believe that we have the best weather team in the country. I would put our coverage against anywhere. I really would. And I think that we have some exceptional meteorologists. And it's not just on TV. Like, let's just use Jude Redfield for an example. Jude's one of the most brilliant meteorologists I've ever met. When I cover severe weather with him, I mean, he is so on top of things. His analysis is so on point. He's so good as a meteorologist. And that alone, in my opinion, makes Jude Redfield the best morning meteorologist in this market. But then you add on the fact his creativity, his fun, his likability. Jude, the jingle tree is it was his brainchild. He came up with this idea that raised $350,000 for the Home of the Innocents this year. I mean, that's what I am blessed to get to work with. And so, for me, I am a very lucky man. In the holidays of the season of thanks, it's easy to look at what I do for a living, the support that you show me, the team that I get to work with, and feel very, very grateful. It really is incredible. It's really awesome. Any other questions about the colder here? The colder coming in. A lot of great comments. Yeah, somebody said Candace Clift has been here a long time, so you may or may not remember this. So I'll go back and give you guys a little bit of a history. I started in WDRB in 2004. Who was working the morning show? My good friend Barry Burnson and my friend Candace Clift. And Candace was on the morning show when I got here. And Candace has been here since the beginning of WDRB in the mornings. Candace gets up at the crack of dawn. Candace doesn't complain. And Candace is exceptional at what she does. And yes, we are so lucky to have her here. So I started working with Candace. I worked with her for the first 7 years that I was at WDRB. Let's see. What's my favorite type of weather to research and teach about? Research, what I did during my research times. So I worked with the Doppler on wheels, which is a mobile Doppler radar. So the goal of the Doppler on wheels is to get radars out there, put them in the active weather, and then be able to research and study. So my research when I was in grad school was a Spencer, South Dakota F4 of 1998. I was part of the deploy group on that storm that captured the data from that storm. And that was when I started grad school. So we captured the data set, which then became my data set that I worked on the de-aliasing, which means that I was correcting all of the wind pixels within the data set and then doing preliminary analysis under Josh Worman. And so I did that. I worked that data set through mid-1999, and that was my area of research. But I've also done some research on land breeze, sea breeze interaction with a dynamicist named Alan Shapiro. I deployed on microbursts and downdrafts in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So if you ever drive by an airport, you'll see an orange radar that's spinning. We call that an ASR9 radar. In the late 90s, MIT was developing a package to put onto the ASR9 radars that could use those radars to try to capture weather data. The hope was they could use the ASR9 radars with the weather package to determine when these damaging wind events occur around airports because they're very dangerous. So I was the ground truth radar for that. I deployed on 3 hurricanes during my time with the Doppler on wheels, and we also studied some frontal interactions. So of all the things that I've researched, the most interesting is tornadoes. But the interesting thing about that is at the same time, I was faced with the humanity of tornadoes. And that's kind of what got me into TV and out of research. So that would be my number one. In terms of teaching, I love teaching all things weather. I've learned more and more about astrophotography over the years. I enjoy sharing a little bit with that. And I may do a video one day about the projects and stuff that I've been working on with my telescope and show you guys some of the fun stuff that I do now. So let's see. John is asking, do I think it's possible we'll see a 7 to 10 inch snow at least once this winter? So John, we already got a big, 2 decent sized snows. We've gotten a 4.8 and a 5.3. You know, for our area, those are pretty big snows. Can we add a tenor on top of that? I mean, it's, you know, it's not impossible, but you're tempting fate. You know, we'll see how things unfold still. Let's see. Felicia is saying Rick DeLuca is very smart about weather. He is. I get the pleasure of working almost every single severe weather event with Rick DeLuca. I've worked with Rick for 13 years, and I've enjoyed watching his development as a meteorologist. Rick's an incredible guy, and his skill set is incredibly diverse. He is a brilliant severe weather meteorologist, brilliant, really fun on TV, one of the most likable guys I know. His skill set is massive, and we're very lucky to have him on the team. And again, I can go through everybody. You know, Matthew Wine is battle tested. He went through many tornado outbreaks working in Alabama, and he chose to come back home here. And his skill set is incredible during severe. He's a really strong Met. He and Bryce spearheaded our top 5 weather events of the year, which was really cool that they did that. Bryce's work ethic is second to none. He's a workhorse. He is so he you put him on a project, he doesn't he sees everything through to completion. He never complains. He always does what's ever necessary. He's so much fun on the morning show and such a critical part of what we do on weekend mornings and during the middays. Like I said, I mean, maybe because I hired everyone on my team that I'm biased, but I think they're great. And I love working with each one of them. I really, really do. Let's see. Do I think we'll stay in a cold pattern for a while, from Dawn? Dawn, I think that we're going to go cold, but I will tell you, I think this is going to be a winter of extremes, and I really do mean that. I think that we're not going to be near normal a lot. I think we're going to be way above or way below. I think that in the next 2 weeks, we're probably not going to go into as cold of a pattern as we started December with. But I think we're going to get spurts. Beyond that, what's going to be very interesting is how the blocking patterns set up in winter. To this point, we had early December where we got blocked into cold for 2 weeks. And now we're kind of oscillating. There's data that continues to shift, but probably through January 8th to 10th, I don't think that we're going to lock into cold. Beyond that point, there's a lot of data out there. So are we staying on the roller coaster? Absolutely. I think we are. Let's see here. Any other questions? Thank you for all the hard work. Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, we've been through a lot this year. You know, in January, we got the 10-inch snow, the obscene cold that followed. In February, we got flooding that in our region took the lives of, I think there was 5 to 10. We then went through the April flooding event that canceled thunder. We had tornadoes that occurred on 3 weeks in a row. We had golf ball size hail that hit Goshen and Prospect and New Albany through Corydon. We had an EF3 tornado hit Louisville. We had a super active storm season with tornadoes all over the place. Somerset, London was the EF4. Summer, we went into a drought, and then we got out of the drought and went back into a rainy pattern. And we now are a top 10 snowiest Decembers on record for the area. So, you know, we've been through a lot. You've seen my face a lot this year. I don't know if you want to see it as much next year. Maybe you don't. Maybe you want the quieter weather. Maybe you want the active. But no, we'll be here. We'll be here if you need us. Let's see here. Any other questions here? I'm going to get myself back into the studio because I do need to look at some of the data. I want to get an update on the Christmas shower chance and the timeline. But if you have any more questions here about the weather pattern shifting colder, feel free to ask. Before I do that, let me just remind you guys, if you enjoy the Facebook Lives, you can always click the thumbs up. Let me know if you're on YouTube. Appreciate you guys joining. Remember to follow the WDRB News YouTube page. You'll be able to jump in there and get alerts when we go live on YouTube. Obviously, if you're new on my Facebook page, click like. That way, when I go live, you get the alert. And always share the video, because even after they come to an end, you can always have friends, family that are going to be interested in the topic. This will probably be my last Facebook Live here before next week, and at least on my vacation. But obviously, we have other members of the team that'll be doing them. So let's see here. Kenny is saying hello from a former resident of Louisville, now in Alabama. Kenny, thanks for continuing to follow. I appreciate that. Debbie's saying no more tornadoes. I get it. I get it. You know, and it's weird for me. There was a time where I thought that tornadoes were this incredibly beautiful thing. In fact, if you actually watch when I was on David Letterman, it's December of 1999. David Letterman had me on the show. He may or may not know this, but I was storm chasing full time from 1996 to 99, and I shot video in the period of 98 to 99 that became ultra famous. And I kind of became the guy that was on every single storm, every single time with the tornado video. And so I started to get calls to go on some of these shows. And, you know, this was obviously before like YouTube and stuff like that. And David Letterman called. And This was after I was on Montel Williams. So I was on Montel Williams. This was actually no. So I did Maury Povich. This was before he did You're Not the Father stuff. I was on Maury Povich in 98. And then David Letterman called in late 98 to see if I would come on the show. So 98, December 98. And I was like, yeah. So they flew me out to New York, and I went on the David Letterman show in 1998 to talk with David Letterman about storm chasing. It was at the time where this wasn't the monster of popularity that it is today. So I went on the show, and David Letterman asked me, he's like, these storms can be horribly destructive. And I was like, yeah, but they can be so beautiful. And if you go through the timeline of my life, in 1998, I had not seen a big deadly tornado yet. And I was this guy that was super energized about storm chasing, and I thought that I was viewing these beautiful things. And maybe at the time, somehow in my mind, I was able to disassociate with what they were doing in 98. But when May 3rd, 1999 happened, and which is considered the Moore, Oklahoma 99 tornado, it is the strongest winds ever measured on the planet, and arguably one of the strongest, if not the strongest tornado ever. I could not avoid the human toll. And that's when I kind of realized that when I was on Letterman and I talked about them being beautiful, I understand in the 2026 Mark Weinberg why I said that. I get it. But the 2026 Mark Weinberg understands that these things kill people. 43 people died on that tornado. It was on May 3rd of 1999. You know, in 2021, we had over 100 Kentuckians die from the Western Kentucky tornado. We had Somerset and London, I think a couple of dozen people die. March 2nd of 2012, we had 13 people die. This was the most deadly tornado that I've worked in our area. And a family of 5 in Pekin, Indiana, every one of them died. And the 2026 Mark Weinberg understands that I do see why people say that they're beautiful. But I also have found that I can't escape the fact that they kill people. And, you know, that's why, like I said, I do what I do. I know that I can't affect that. And that's kind of where I went with this whole tangent. But I hope we don't get tornadoes. I hope we don't see any. But what I've come to realize is my skill set, the tools that I have as a meteorologist, are best served being there when there's active weather. My expertise is in radar meteorology. I've spent a lifetime perfecting it. And that's what I do best. I wish that nobody ever will die again when I work. And I hope that's the case. I hope that's exactly how this unfolds. But the next strong tornado that's coming towards your house, or the next deadly tornado that's out there, I'll be there for you. I will be there for you. And that's what I've come to realize, is that, you know, I hope we never see another one again. But what I do have control of is where I am when they occur. So let's see here. Somebody's asking if I have a New Year's resolution. I actually don't make resolutions in New Year's. I never really have. So I'm just going to try to live my life as I do now and make the best out of every day. That's kind of my motto in life. Every day I want to make the best I possibly can. I think you guys see from the things I do, from whether it's, you know, if it is chasing sometimes on the rarities, I do that, or, you know, if it's astrophotography, or if it's scuba diving, or if it's taking a trip to Red River Gorge and hiking. I just want to look at each day at the end of the day and say that I made the best of it. So, you know, that's kind of how I live my life. So maybe that's why I don't do the resolutions. Any other questions here for me? Donald's saying, I'm the weatherman for our family. I appreciate that, guys. I really do. And it is humbling to see the way this community has put its arms around me. Let's see. So we don't have any other questions here. Again, I want to just say this to you. I hope you have a Merry Christmas. I hope that it's a blessed time for you. I hope you take the opportunity with your family around and you realize how lucky you are and how rich you are in that day. I hope you have a wonderful and healthy and safe New Year. We are obviously going to be getting colder in the later parts of this week, so prepare. Enjoy the warmer on Thursday if that's your thing. If you want the colder, Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, you'll be in your element. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head back over into Studio A. I'm going to look at the data. I know people want to know rain chances on Christmas, and I'm going to spend some time on the timeline there. So if you guys appreciate the Facebook Lives and the YouTube Lives and the X Lives, thumbs up. Share the video because friends can come in afterwards. And remember, now I used to always say these Facebook Lives I do for you guys because, you know, and I'm on TV to make a living. But the world's changed now, and now we're able to make a living in both spaces. So every time you come in here, you support me. Every Facebook Live you watch, you support me. You tell the people I work for that I want Mark here and I appreciate him. And when you watch me on TV, you make the same message known. So tune in on WDRB News at 10 o'clock. I'll be on at 10, 10:22, and 10:37. And I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on the shower chance for Christmas Day. When? The warmer, and then we'll update on the timeline for cold. So appreciate everybody joining me here in the Facebook Live. This is the end of this Facebook Live.